Hey, Gabriel, how are you today?
Oh, I'm doing great, Frank. Thank you.
It's great to talk to you. I mean, I've told you before in our pre-conversation, I've been dealing with Beretta. I've known of Beretta uh, good almost 40 years now. Certainly, when I went to the armor school way back in '89, I had the pleasure of learning about some of the history of Beretta. And is it still a true statement? It's the oldest existing privately held corporation in the world.
It is. Beretta has a great history. We are the oldest industrial dynasty in the world. We're the third oldest continuously owned, family-owned business in the world. Founded back in 1526. That's our oldest record. We were probably around a bit before then. So basically at the time when, Michelangelo was still running around Italy.
Pushing 400 years now. Has there always been a Pietro Beretta as chairman of the
There's
board?
always been a Beretta. We are now, I believe, on the 15th generation Beretta.
Okay.
The last Pietro Beretta was in the early 1900s. Now, in today's world, we have running the company is Mr. Franco Gusali Beretta and Mr. Pietro Gusali Beretta. So,
Okay.
both Beretta descendants.
Still a corporate history nobody can touch, and been in the firearms business, the weapons industry, and all this time. And isn't it interesting that here we are today, talk about the latest and greatest that Beretta's turning out, that being the APX A1. And as we told you previously, hadn't heard that much news about it. I was vaguely familiar with it. Obviously, I've got familiarity with a lot of other Beretta weapons.
Right.
But let's talk about this APX one and what makes
Sure.
it the latest, greatest. What's modern and contemporary about it?
Yeah, well, the APX was our pistol actually that we first used it to compete in the U.S. Army MHS competition back, when that contract was being fought over, and we submitted our APX. At the time, it was just the APX. The A1 was the today's variant that we'll talk about. But the APX was submitted, and we were very proud because we were one of the few companies that we know of. I only know of three that actually passed all the technical requirements of the stringent, MHS testing. Our 9mm passed all technical requirements. Of course, we weren't awarded the contract for other reasons, but we were very proud that from a technical performance point of view, we passed all the requirements: reliability, endurance, all the abusive environmental testing that you're familiar with. So again, we were very happy. We launched it commercially on the U.S. market. We've had it around for a few years. It is our 9mm striker polymer frame pistol with a chassis system. It does feature a chassis system, which nowadays, a few companies have adopted that or use it, but we were one of the first people that actually designed it.
Gabriel, let me interrupt you a second. So when you say chassis system, for the people in the audience that are listening that are not familiar with what that term means, real brief description of what you mean by chassis system.
Sure. Chassis, you're right. I assumed everybody knows it, but it's a relatively new concept. The chassis is the serialized component. Basically, think of it as a trigger group. It's a serialized trigger group of the pistol that is internal to the grip. Now, the grip, what used to be called the frame or the receiver, now is just basically a plastic grip, and it can be easily replaced for color, for size, for texturing. But the serialized component is internal and stays the same. So Nowadays, a few companies feature that based on the fact that we've competed back in, again, the MHS program. We are confident that we were one of the first companies that actually developed such a system. And it does give the user flexibility in that, again, over time, they can replace the colors, the grip, if the grip gets scratched up, damaged, if they want to change the color for whatever reason, the chassis allows you to do that.
But per the ATF records, though, it's still the same gun because of the serialized
same
part.
gun. Again,
Right.
the grip is just an accessory you can buy through the mail, buy it on the website. It's just a piece of plastic, basically, for all effects and purposes. The chassis, the steel chassis with the serial number, is the gun per ATF standards, and that's really what the gun is, the chassis. So the APX featured the chassis system because, again, at the time, the modular handgun system required modularity, just as the name implies, and so it allowed different sizes, different colors, a lot of flexibility in making the gun configure the gun different ways, right? Different slide assemblies, different barrels, et cetera, et cetera. So as I mentioned, it was a very tough competition, but we were very proud of the fact that we passed it. And over the years, we've also had, of course, now with a lot of input from the market, whether it be the commercial market or the law enforcement market, we actually improved it further. So here we are in 2022, and we recently launched the A1 variant, which is the upgraded version. And what we took all the know-how we had from previous competitions, plus the market input, and we came up with the A1. So the A1, for example, we improved the trigger. The trigger is a big one because we had received some suggestions for improvement. Our safety within the trigger now is flush, so that it when you push the trigger is flush, so that it doesn't bother your trigger finger at all. So it's a very flush. We contoured it a little bit more, a little bit less aggressively. So again, to be a more comfortable trigger, very short reset, very crisp. So we believe we really have set the new bar on for polymer frame striker pistols in terms of trigger.
Gabriel, does it have a fixed trigger pull weight? Is there a standard poundage?
Yeah, our trigger is roughly around 6 pounds, but with the improvements we made, it actually feels better than that. It's so crisp and light that it feels even better than 6 pounds.
And we should note, and this is important to me because we were talking about a competitor before we started our call as well. You know, there's a lot of people out there, they don't want anything over 4 pounds, 3.5 pounds. To me, those are dangerous for law enforcement to have on the street. You need to have something that demands that conscious pull. Found myself in a situation some number of years ago, under stress, finger on the trigger, put enough pressure on that gun to actually get the hammer to half cock and didn't even realize it. So not a fan of those lower trigger pull weights.
Yeah,
and I
no, agreed. We intended this pistol and this variant to be a duty pistol, a defense pistol. We have, as you point out, we do have pistols that are used for competition, for example, that have lighter triggers. Right. But again, those are specialty products, in some cases even single action. So they're a light trigger under those conditions. It makes sense. We as you just pointed out, we believe that for a defense pistol, 6 pounds is about where you should be, because as you probably know, the human body can even instinctively, even when you stumble or trip on something, your reaction, it can actually exert more than 6 pounds on a trigger. So yes, something to be aware of.
Avoid those negligent discharges. So, and as you mentioned several times, it went through and passed all of the MHS testing. Anything that's good for the military, and I'm not saying law enforcement's military, but it's a paramilitary structure, and they are carrying arms 24/7. Obviously, will serve the law enforcement community well. So, can you tell me some of the features of the gun that you feel are ideally suited for the law enforcement community?
Sure. Well, one of the things we also improved on the A1, which is very important to law enforcement community, is the ergonomics of the grip. So the shootability, right? How does it point instinctively? The follow up. So what we did there is we recontoured the grip frame by making it a straight grip, as opposed to used to have a finger groove in it that we found, again, did not meet everybody's hand size. So we made a straight grip so it's really universal for anybody's hands. We also worked on the beaver tail. The undercut to the beaver tail was moved up and in. So what that did is lowered the bore axis. So the gun shoots, recoils less in the sense that the muzzle rises less, so you can get your second follow-up shot easier, and there's less muzzle rise. We also improved on the undercut right under the second finger. Right, so again, it raised your grip, right? So we did everything to try to minimize that muzzle rise and lower that bore axis. So we found that improved together with the trigger. That helped the controllability and the shootability of the pistol. We also, again, you mentioned law enforcement. We've noticed that law enforcement is starting to use red dot optics more often. So yes, we've decided to just go ahead and make the red dot optic slide feature standard on all APX A1s. So you no longer have to buy the special variant that has it or the one that doesn't have it. It's just one version. Of course, it has a cover plate. And then when you buy it and you decide which RDO you want, we have 5 different plates. to cover all the different RDOs on the market today, the popular RDOs.
Gabriel, do you have different sights, mechanical sights, height available for RDS?
We do. We don't work on heights as much as we do on configuration. So we do have, for example, tritium night sights, which is another feature that law enforcement appreciates.
Yes,
or we have the standard dot. As the family evolves, we're going to add more to it. We standardize another feature on the A1 is that we standardize the dovetail cut to our popular M9 92X pistol series. So
right.
Other aftermarket sights with that dovetail configuration fit. So there's plenty of different sight configurations out there. Magazine capacity is also depending on the state. We have 10, 15, 17 rounds. We also have some extended magazines, but those aren't probably as applicable in law enforcement.
Gabriel, in the quote unquote full size gun, the duty weapon, that would be a 17 round magazine.
17 round is flush. 17 round flush. We do have extended magazines, but again, for most law enforcement use, a 17 round flush would be the obvious choice.
I'm sure there are police officers that would disagree with me, but if I need more than 18 in the gun, either my tactics need working on, or I need a lot of backup. That's a lot of ammo.
That is a lot of ammo. And if you should need more than that, though, we do have, I think that it's a three round extension. So you get 20 rounds. So it's a pretty, it's a lot of rounds.
it's a sufficient capacity weapon.
Right.
All right. So, and this is anything else about the APX that we haven't talked about? I know there's a standard Picatinny rail.
Right.
Is the magazine catch ambidextrous?
Yeah, all the controls are either reversible or ambidextrous. The magazine release can be very easily reversed. The slide stop is ambidextrous. Takedown is very simple. We have also a somewhat unique feature. It's a striker deactivator button in case of need. If you want to use it and do not want to pull the trigger, as on some pistols, you can push the striker deactivator in with either a paper clip or any other sharp object, and that'll deactivate the striker, render it safe, so then you can safely disassemble the gun without, again, having to pull the trigger. Of course, if you pull the trigger, that'll deactivate the striker as well on an empty chamber, hopefully.
Well, yeah, but that's an interesting safety feature to have, that you can deactivate the striker without pulling the trigger is a strong safety point coming from a guy who's a firearms instructor and armor. That's of value. It
is. Of course, again, people have to use it, of course, and have to be trained to use it. But it is a good option in case in case you want to train your officers to decock without pulling the trigger. We've had that on the APX from day one, and we thought it was a good feature to have. Also, the ergonomics wise, the APX has always had removable back straps. So we have 3 different sizes included with the gun. So again, you can tailor the grip size to fit most people's hands. With those 3 back straps, you have some, options to really make the pistol fit well in your hands.
So thank you for all of the information about the APX, and I'm keeping an eye on our clock. I want to touch on 2 other things quickly if we can. One is the 1301 shotgun. It's been around for quite some time,
right?
But doesn't seem to get the market penetration I feel like it should.
Well, the 1301 is another great product. Of course, Beretta has a very long history in the shotgun world. 1301 was our gun that was developed. It was a successor to the 1201. And it's really gotten, in recent years, a lot of attention because I think in recent times, even law enforcement has recognized that the semi-automatic shotgun can be reliable. And that comes from our legacy with the hunting world, where we had to make sure our gun was reliable, even with the lightest hunting loads. Even when you're shooting small birds and you're shooting light hunting loads, our gun had to function flawlessly. That reliability has, I think, finally, been recognized in the law enforcement world as a suitable alternative to the traditional pump. So in the past, it was felt that the pump was really the only reliable enough gun for law enforcement use. We have convinced now everybody, many of our customers that use it, that our gun is super reliable. And the 3-gun competition world, by the way, helped a lot because they started to use the gun and win with it. And it's so light, pointable, shootable that I think law enforcement took notice. And now many of our LE customers are using it. They prefer it now over the pump because it is easier to shoot, less recoil. You don't need 2 hands. In an emergency, you could even shoot it one-handed. So it has so many advantages that I think law enforcement has finally realized it is a viable solution.
So having heard that now, you make me want to get one, which is going to bring me to my next step. You have an American Defender program,
Correct.
Which supports public safety and first responders. Tell me a little bit about that before we have to sign off.
Sure. The American Defender program is our way of thanking first responders and military personnel. And what we do is through our LE dealer network that has LE pricing, we offer those service members and those officers, those first responders, an opportunity to visit our LE dealer, purchase select products at a discounted price, and be able to either buy the APX or the 1301 or other products from Beretta at a special price.
Excellent. All right. That's good to know. Gabriel, thank you for all your time and the information today. Is there a particular website people can go to for more information on any of the 3, the APX,
Sure.
the 1301, or the American Defender program?
It's all the same. You can visit Beretta.com and you will find information on all our products, including the LE and military firearm line and the American Defender program.
Excellent. Thank you very much, sir. Have a great day.
Thank you for having me, Frank. Take care. Bye-bye.